Yay! All right. Well, we are back with Breath to Breath, and I'm really excited to introduce this guest. And you're going to have to tell me, do I call you David or do I call you Jacko? Or,
It depends if I'm in trouble or not.
oh, no,
Jacko, if
no.
I'm not in trouble, but if I'm in trouble, you can call me David.
I'll keep that on the back burner. Well, so David Jacko Jackson, I'm going to read your bio that you graciously provide for me, is a master instructor with the OxygenAdvantage and currently working as a breath coach. He's a former rugby player, professional rugby player, accredited with UK SCA Strength and Conditioning. He is an NASM Performance Enhancement and Corrective Exercise Specialist on a mission to make breath work a normal part for everyday lives. Having retrained his own breathing after a brain injury in 2013, which forced him to retire from professional rugby, he is now passionate about helping others change the way they breathe to improve the way they feel, move, and perform. He believes in breath work and that it's for everyone. Having worked with professionals seeking better stress management, those suffering with anxiety, and professional athletes looking to improve their performance and everything in between. So David knows, Jacko knows how your breath can impact all the areas of your body and mind, which is why he's so passionate about helping people use breath work to fulfill their true potential. And having felt the benefits personally, he wants to share it with others. Nice bio.
I'm like, oh, did I write that? That guy, who's that guy? He doesn't sound very familiar. I want to work with
That's
him.
you. That's you. And as I was telling you when we first hopped on, just thank you for coming on here for this conversation. My whole mission with Breath to Breath is to make breathing, breath work, breathing re-education, whatever you want to call it, more accessible, also better understood, and just know that literally we're just helping each other live better, feel better, breathe better. And it's something that we get to do and we can change, even though it's an autonomic system in our body. And I first reached out to you because I, as a myofunctional therapist and a speech pathologist, has my professional training. I was like, well, let's talk about the tongue too, because I thought that was something missing
Yeah.
in what you were providing, which is great. Literally, you've got a really solid foundation, and I definitely see like the layers of the OxygenAdvantage, which is fantastic training. But so let's pick off right where we were kind of starting before I recorded. You were recently doing an OxygenAdvantage master training class. Is that correct?
So it was like the first time all of the master instructors from all over the world got together.
Yeah.
Patrick MeKeown graciously invited us to his home where he's created this training center as well in Ireland. So there was like probably about 30 of us. People have come from like Brazil, Colombia, New Zealand, and then all over Europe and America. And one of the guys, Brian, he the lady had got this training from was like Lewis Laney, I think her name was.
Not
Um, and yeah, there was a few things around like clearing the airway, and one of them was like um we would there was a thing about ensuring that when the mouth is closed the teeth aren't touching, so we had like a little lollipop stick between his teeth, like to start
uh-huh.
with. And then he got a cotton bud with some, I think it was white rose um
Like
uh,
essential
oil,
oil?
essential oil
Yeah.
on. And then it was like to put it up the nose, and he was like, not how to help clear the nasal passage. And it was like not how you traditionally do in a so I'm not the expert on this, he is the expert on this, but I got to experience it, and sort of blew my mind in a
Oh,
couple of ways. One, seeing him do it and going like, where the hell did he just put that cotton bud? And then it was like, try it on yourself, and I'm like, where the hell am I going to put this thing? And anyway, so I
yeah.
he takes it like a cotton bud. You think that's what a couple of inches long or something, maybe 3 inches or whatever the size of like a cotton bud with the two, the little stick with two little
Oh,
fluffy
oh,
cotton things.
a Q-tip?
Is that what you'd call it?
It's
I
like
don't know what we.
it's cotton and a stick in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stick with cotton on either end, and it's like, it's I don't know about the length of your thumb or something, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so he's like, not, if you're going to do like a COVID test, you stick the thing up your nose and wiggle it. He's like, not straight up. Like, he was like, there's three nasal passages that go like
Yeah,
backwards,
freaking this
one
guy
more.
out.
So yeah,
Yeah.
one quite vertical, and then like
Yeah.
gradually high. So he takes this combo, he goes, you put it up just a little bit, and then you're going to go like backwards, and just
Uh-huh.
this thing just disappears back to like you can just, it was like a magic trick to me when I saw. I was like, where the hell is that thing? And then he
Well,
pulls it out and he's like, the other one's a behind. And then, yeah, I've got a little video of me putting it. Interestingly, on my left side, on that lowest one, as he demonstrated, I got it all the way in. On the right,
yeah.
it was like blocking. And then even though I couldn't get it fully in on the right, after doing that, and then he took us through a few other breathing drills that was like very much like a 4 in 6 out cycle with humming on the final, this stick in your mouth, and then you would and there was a little bit of like having to then swallow after that, and swallowing being a sign of the 10 cranial nerves being able to be firing in the correct sequence. And it was fascinating that just the act of swallowing would potentially be for a lot of us, depending on how things are firing together in terms of those cranial nerves, was being impacted. You find, it was like, if you find yourself blinking on your head or just finding it hard to swallow, like, make sure you do that swallow, but it's a like that should be easy and comfortable. And it's just the opening up these different things that we talk about, like breathing, and in its narrowest form, there's different dimensions to it, but someone might be simply thinking about, say, like the cadence or the speed at which you're breathing, and not worrying about the diaphragm, so the mechanics, and not worrying necessarily about even the passage at which it's coming in through the nose or the mouth. And then we have all these like nuances around like all of this stuff, and then going like your tongue, like as you was talking with us, your tongue position, and then like how important swallowing is, and then I got Brian teaching me how to stick things at my nose. And then the weird thing is, not the weird thing, but the thing is, afterwards, it's like, well, someone listening might be like, that sounds a bit wacky and a bit crazy. Like, well, what's the point? How clear and it still is now, that was 2 days ago, and how clear, like, both nostrils feel having done, and I'd just only done it the once.
Right.
So it's helping to really clear that and get rid of mucus. But there was a significant element of it of like trying to, and I'm not a neuro specialist or anything like that, but understanding that the correct firing sequences of the cranial nerves being really key. And when you were struggling to swallow after doing these little things, it was like, yeah. But that's okay.
Oh, no,
I'm basically talking about stuff I don't know anything about. I just experienced it. It just blew my mind.
right. Well, I was gonna say it's weird until you find it helpful for you. And
Yeah.
honestly, for me, my experience in getting to where I am now is I've had to unlearn a lot of things that I thought were true, or that I thought like that's weird, that's not gonna work, that's an absolute. And for me, it started when I got my deviated septum fixed and actually could breathe well. And I realized, oh, I've been breathing poorly this whole time. And that's what really led me down that path. And then same with like swallowing. You've just assumed that since you can do it, that you're doing it fine. But there's all these nuances with it.
Yes.
And there's so many different processes that get into it. And so I did a little bit of research that I could have some really good questions. So
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
looking.
Just one thing I'll say with, because a lot of people listening to these things, depending on where they're at on that journey, we're talking there about breathing, but that happens automatically. We're talking about swallowing. You're almost like, I'm thinking, I just seen you blink then. I was like, well, blinking's like, can you blink badly? But do you know what I mean? A lot of the time, things that are automatic, I had this myself, in that we just see these things as like not something that can be worked on, trained, or enhanced. And the phrase that keeps cropping up for me is like, just because it's automatic doesn't mean it's optimal. So if I can help to improve something, if I can make it, and a big thing for me is with the breathing specifically, is like making it more efficient. If I can be more efficient in my breathing, whether it's breathing for exercise or not, breathing day to day, if I'm more efficient with my breathing, if I can optimize it a little bit, and there's many dimensions that we can work on to improve the efficiency of how we breathe, my body is having to do less work for that important thing of being alive.
Right.
Food and water are important, but not as important as breathing. If you don't breathe, you're dead.
Yeah.
So it's the number one thing. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I literally typed out the thing you just said. The thing you just said, because I was watching those between breath promos, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But literally, I like watched it 5 times so I could get it all, just because it's
Ah,
automatic
oh yes, I
doesn't.
said that in the thing,
Yeah,
didn't say
just
in the
be
promo.
no,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
more, it's good, I want all of it. Just because it's automatic doesn't mean that it's optimal. Just because you don't have to think about it doesn't mean you can't, and I think that
Mm.
that alone, like, I just wanna, like, stamp on everyone's car, like, everyone's thought, everyone's breath, you're
We should
swallowing.
get t-shirts, shouldn't we, made?
Make them soft. I don't want any of that hard t-shirt stuff. But no, like that alone is when I'm talking about unlearning things, really what I'm saying is like reevaluating the way and the pattern that you breathe, you think, you move, you swallow, you react. And what it all
Mm,
starts with is that foundation of breath. So when we go into treating a patient for whether it be for speech pathology or for myofunctional therapy, let's talk about like a hierarchy. Literally,
mm,
that foundation is your respiration and your breath. And the part that like continuously blows me away is the amount of cranial nerves, the amount of processes, the amount of muscles that have to be working properly for swallowing, for breathing, just for pumping your blood. I mean, we take them all for granted. And what I love in those 2 sentences that you so eloquently stated in that breath between breaths is that we can start to think about these differently. We can start to look at these processes and really get into the nuances of, is it helping me or is it hurting me? And can I do something about it? And then starting to integrate it into your
mm.
everyday habits. So uh,
Yeah,
I think we're
yeah.
on the same page.
Yeah, well, there's like some stuff that's been cropping up more recently, just in my own stuff that I'm exploring, but then also like speaking to some of the other master instructors, and everyone did some sessions of some various different things. We'd experienced all sorts of things from like sound baths and all sorts of various different things, which was really
Yeah.
cool. And like the the um the body has ways of communicating to us about how it's getting on and if it needs some bit of help and attention. And one of the things that I've took a very long time. Like I retired from a brain injury in 2013 from my rugby career. When you play rugby, you smash a lot and you get injured a lot and you play with a lot of injuries and you get used to taking painkillers. You get used to just strapping up tape your whatever's injured and like getting on with it. And you dull down your ability to read what your body's communicating to. And it's took me a long time to undo a lot of that and getting to a better point now and understanding that like and pain's like sort of the obvious one that people can get like pain is a way of your body communicating something's not right and it needs some help if you want to listen to that and then do something about it. But I'm starting to think of this the simplest things like how you're breathing, how you're feeling, how you're thinking. If you've got a headache, that's your brain telling you something. If you're struggling, you might not even. And then the nuances of like I'm conscious of like the people that are listening to it that like might think that some bloke talking about swallowing is like an idiot, because if I was listening to this 10 years ago, I'd have thought I was an idiot. So and it's important to me. I want to try to help make these elements of breathing like very normal, or breathwork, or whatever you want to call it. Like we're sort of moving away from the term breathwork has a lot of misconceptions about what it means or what it is, and it isn't actually necessarily defined. So it means different things to different people.
Right.
So it's sort of talking about just breathing, like breathing better, or breath training, like training your breath to be better, or anything. Yeah. So that's what I'm sort of talking about, and trying to make sure that it isn't weird and it is more normal and it is something that everyone can work on and just can choose to think about doing something with it, just to enhance. That might be as simple as just counting your breathing or listening to your breathing, just something to help you connect to it. And that's the between breaths
Yeah.
little thing that you're mentioning is that's like between breaths is going to be a little short film documentary that's yet to be filmed, because it's going to be documenting what happens in a week's time when I take on an ultra marathon. And so we don't know what is going to. Someone asked me like, "Oh, yeah, what's it?" Because we did the thing that you're referencing that you're seeing is like the trailer for it to say like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing, and this is coming. And someone asked me that they're like, what's it looks great. I can't wait to see what's in it. I'm like, well, yeah, we haven't filmed it yet because it's just going to be documenting what actually happens when I try and run 216 kilometers in 3 days around a little island in North Wales, so on a coastal path with 4,000 meters of elevation, all nasal breathing to ensure that I'm being as efficient as possible and out in nature on the beautiful coastal path in a place that's very dear to my heart and my family. It's where my mum and dad are from. It's where my sister currently lives. So there's a number of things that are make it a special place for me and my family. And yeah, one of the things that, like, I'm someone that would find it very difficult to sit and meditate. Whereas running has been an opportunity for me, something of which took me a year to do after my brain injury in 2013. It wasn't until 2014 I was able to run without having my symptoms from my brain injury coming back. And that's a long time when you're used to being a professional athlete, and that goes out the window. And running has since it took a while before I discovered the benefits of breathing for brain rehabilitation after concussions, and then understanding how dysfunctional my breathing had become because of this. And so over the last, I ran my first. I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. Like, I can't emphasize that enough.
That's you.
I ran a marathon last October for the first time, and afterwards I was like seeking not to do a marathon again, but faster. It was like the challenge of trying to do it the next day or the next day. So a multi-day event was just, yeah, I'd enjoyed the training.
Yeah.
And the training for me, running is an opportunity to connect.
Well,
It's not running to get better at running. It's running to experience my breathing, get heightened, connect to it, and using running as a way to improve my breathing. It's not about trying to be better at running, and a lot of people find it difficult to because we've become. Some people don't like the word dysfunctional, but our breathing. Those of us that find it difficult to nasal breathe when we're doing exercise, they find it very strange that I would choose to nasal breathe 216 kilometers, because they think that's going to make it harder. Because for them, like me, 3 years ago, when I tried to run to the end of my road, which is like 50 yards, I couldn't run nasal breathing. It was just my nose was too blocked and snot just pouring into my mouth, etc. And the concept of trying to nasal breathe it for a lot of people is going. The feedback I'm getting is like, what? You're just gonna. That's making it harder, is it? Like, why would you be making it? It sounds like I'm making it more extreme. It's not a way to make it more extreme. It's a way to make the whole experience more enjoyable, but most importantly, to be able to do it, because the efficiency from the nasal breathing and how it's going to keep the nervous system calmer, how it's going to reduce the effect of fatigue, and how it's going to help me recover faster, recover quicker, is literally the main thing I'm going to be able to utilize to actually be able to do this thing. Because, as I say, I'm not a runner. I'm not a ultra marathon runner that's been doing this thing and doing crazy long runs every week at that just isn't me. And I guess part of it is therefore sort of putting this idea and concept that has plenty of scientific backing and research over the last 20 years about the benefits of nasal breathing, but just for my own experience, putting it to the test. And I'm interested to see how both the body and the brain and the mind responds to something that before we went live, I said, literally, it's a week tomorrow. As we recording this, is a week tomorrow. And I said, I'm bricking my pants. And you went, does that mean shitting your pants? That's exactly what it means.
So literally September 2nd start date, right?
Say again?
September 2nd.
Yeah, second. Yeah, 2nd of September. Yeah.
You just dropped a lot of golden goodness there, and I
sorry.
No, I wrote a lot of notes. So you ready for them?
Yeah.
Well, one, we're going to be rooting for you, or at least I will. I love that you're taking on this challenge, and I think honestly, it's by example. Like, you show people that it's not crazy by showing them what it's doing for your body, and that I think is the biggest impact that we can make.
Yeah, I mean, I hope someone goes, crikey, like that weird dude has like ran over 200 kilometers nasal breathing, and go, what could I do nasal breathing? Like, what could I do in my workout and my training or my thing? Like, I hope people, that's the point. If someone watches it, and goes, wow, what? I did have one guy so far, so he's like, oh, I've seen it looks like a great event. I reckon I'd like to try and do it next year. What training program have you been following? And I was like, dude, there is no training program. There is no training program, like flat out. There is principles around efficiency of both breathing and mechanics of running that I'm applying.
Mhm.
um, and and just literally a following a principle again of like progressive overload with training,
Yeah.
with my philosophy being, if I've got to run so far that I've never ran before and I've got to do it multiple days, every time I go out for a run, I just need to finish that run and feel like I haven't really done anything. So finish a run and feel like you can do it all again.
Yeah.
And I took that concept and went, right, started literally running 5 and 10Ks,
Yeah.
finish that and feel like you can do it all again. Don't do it all again, but feel like it. And when that feels comfortable after X number of weeks, whatever that is, then build it up 15K. And then it's like 20K. So it's like 21K is a half marathon.
Hmm.
Run a half marathon, make that feel easy. Could I do it all again? Like that's where I've got to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I've got to the point where I could run a full marathon and feel like I can do it all again. So that's going to be a significant challenge because day one is a marathon and a half. Day two
Yeah.
is 2.5 marathons. Like, so I'm going into unknown territory, but that's the principles that I've followed. But I'm not trying to promote a training program from the back of this. I'm trying to hopefully just get people to understand and feel and experience what might they be able to do with more efficient nasal breathing.
Right. Well, bravo with that. And the
Mm-hmm.
only thing I can add to like the nasal breathing is I ran a 5K for my birthday, and literally the whole goal was just to nasal breathe. And half people are like, yeah, okay, cool. Like they didn't understand the link to it. And it's just the goal. I'd say often like the goal is completely different. It's not, you're not going out there just to like beat everyone. Literally, I just wanted to show like my body can do these really incredible
Yeah.
things. And that's what I always go back to is like, there's no way that we have all these processes like swallowing and breathing that takes so many different muscles, so many different nerves, so many different things firing, that everything is just happenstance. Like this is all intentionally made. And what we are capable of is mind blowing. And then what I would say too is back to like your meditation, your running is your meditation.
Yeah, no,
Meditation,
yeah, that's what,
yeah.
yeah,
As I say, that all meditation
100%.
is like at its most basic level is intentional thought. For me, breath work is intentional breathing, and they can be one and the same. They
Yeah.
absolutely can be linked together. And what I say too is like, who says meditation has to be on a bolster? You're doing it like you're
Mm.
finding your calm for your mind. That's what works for you. It can be walking in the grass. It can be just looking at a stream. I mean, it can be anything
Yeah,
that helps you. Yeah.
it's important for me that it's out in nature. There's
Yeah.
that connection with nature and with the earth that's very important. Like hence I don't run barefoot, but I run in a barefoot shoe like Vivo Barefoots. Like
Right.
they are, there's nothing to them, so you feel everything on the floor. But that's an important aspect for it. So it's all trail roll. The loop around the island, there's a little bit that you have to do on the road. It's like 90% trail, but it's a coastal path. So you're literally by the sea. It is beautiful, but it is that brings its own challenges in terms of
Yeah.
the terrain and everything. But yeah, I don't run on a treadmill. Like that is running on a treadmill to me is just like, I get why some people might, but for me, just personally, like that is just like,
A hamster
I
on a wheel.
just can't even think of an analogy. It's just like it's just killing like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost
yeah, get outside.
taking the art out of it. Um,
Mm.
okay, you mentioned your family. I don't even know, where are you from originally?
So I'm England in the UK, but my mum and dad are both from North Wales.
North Wales.
Um,
All right,
yeah,
biggest question. Has your improved breathing and your take on the way you're treating your body, have you seen that trickle out into the way your family starts to talk about health, starts to talk about breathing, starts to look at their own longevity?
yeah, like definitely like yeah, like my I mean back in March, my father passed away in April, and in March I moved back in with my mum with both of them to help mum look after dad because he was getting to that point, and he was like taping his mouth at night and like, yeah, no, and he loved it. And my mum was like, she really enjoys yoga, and she was like having some really great conversations with her yoga teacher about the breathing because it's difficult with family because you don't necessarily like it's funny because you don't sort of go, well, I should have sat down and just I should have done sessions with them, but I didn't do anything. You tend to, I don't know, that maybe it's in English, but I don't know, I didn't like drill stuff into them, but it opens up conversations and ways of thinking about things. And one of the things that's been like beautiful as well as like the most painful thing of yeah, seeing my dad. Like we saw him take his last breath, and it emphasized more than well, it emphasized a number of things. Like something happens when there is other shit going on when you die. Like that's for real. If anyone's ever experienced or seen that, like it's yeah, there's something happening when you pass over or wherever you end up going. But it's yeah, there's something there. And then you know, you'd say someone like me that teaches people how to breathe, like the importance of the breath, like, yeah, I think it's the most important thing. Like, but then when you see someone take the last one, you're like, it just takes a different level, a different, yeah. And just seeing like mouth breathing when the process that someone goes through when they're passing away. I don't, I've only ever seen it with my father. I've never seen anyone else die. Um, and so I don't know enough about it, whether it's like, his was from cancer. I don't know if it's a thing or if it's something that everyone goes through when it's like that. But the the airway, like just stuff shutting down and the mouth breathing, it's like, it's torture. It's
Yeah.
absolute torture. And some of us, when we're mouth breathing, not knowing about it, just in our day to day, because we've got into some poor habits, it's like, but potentially, I just see it as like, I've seen it with my own eyes. It's like you're slowly dying. Like it's literally that. So yes, it's added a huge new dimension to why I think breathing is so important. Yeah, and it's sad that it's has to go that way. I don't know. It's weird. It's still not even that long ago, and it's like,
I was gonna say, are you okay sharing your father's name?
yeah, Peter.
Peter. Well, thank you so much for telling us about Peter. And I know he would be so proud of all the work that you're doing as well. And just what I think is so powerful about what you just shared is that it's connected to all of us. I mean, our
Yeah,
breath is something we're all doing and we all can look at and we all can change. And the reason I asked about your family, it's like you don't have to sit down and do a session. Just by you keep showing up, like literally
mm,
putting your work out there, putting what you know to be true and sharing it. They're watching, your family's seeing. And I feel like that's the biggest litmus test of like, all right, am I making an impact? Is when you start to see the changes in your own family dynamics and your family
yeah,
units. And you
yeah.
absolutely, Peter was watching and he's still watching. And on a side note, my grass is being cut right now. So I don't know if you hear
Oh,
like
I
that
can't hear it now. I can't hear anything.
literally as you were sharing like the greatest stuff.
All right.
I
No, no,
literally
no.
heard
Yeah,
the
David. Now I
lawn.
can't hear anything. Anyways.
Perfect answer. Well, thank you for sharing
Yeah,
about Peter. I
yeah.
know he'll probably be with you on those, is it three
It's
days?
weird. It's yeah. I mean, it's in his land, and it's like
Yeah.
um, I've never experienced like a that close a loss before. Um, yeah, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like he's. I know he's not here, but it doesn't feel like he's not here. I don't know what. I think everyone sort of deals with these things in different ways, don't they? But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's like I know when I go home to see my mum, like I'm not expecting. I know he's not there. I'm not expecting to see him, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like he's fully gone. Like I say, I don't know whether how spiritual or religious people are or listening or want to get, or whether they get put off by these things. But like, yeah, the best way I can explain it is like when he took his last breath, my mum turned
Yeah.
to us and said, like, he's gone, hasn't he? And it was like, yeah. But his physical body was there, and it was there for the next hour or however long until they come to take it. And our body, our physical body that we can see and touch and feel, like is an element of us. But it isn't us,
Hmm.
because when you take whatever you want to describe it is that makes you, someone might say soul or spirit or whatever the word someone wants to describe it as, you cannot deny that there is more to us than the physical thing that we can see. And it just there is there's even like take things like sound,
Yeah.
like everyone agrees that the sound exists. The fact that you're listening to this, and like if people don't like things, they don't think it's sort of scientific. It's like, well, you can't see sound, but you hear it, and like, what is it? Like those vibrations that are like, there's so much going on there outside of what we currently understand. Look, we used to think the world was flat,
I know.
and everyone laughed at people
Yeah,
that thought it was round when they first
yeah.
anything that's new and challenges people that ends up being correct, everyone thinks is stupid at the start.
I I love,
History proves that.
yeah, it's literally something I go back to over and over again is I want to be curious instead of critical. Like, I mean, yes, let's look at all the different points, but I want to know why something's working. And if I don't understand it, let me sit with it, let me observe it, let me try
Mm.
it, and then just go from there. But what I think is so powerful about what you've shared, what you're doing, and just what is abundantly clear is like this doesn't have to be hard to improve your life. We're not asking like for people to make huge changes in
No,
their
no.
breathing patterns. It starts with just being aware. And what if so anyone that's probably listening to this that is extremely skeptical on changing breathing patterns, how that improves your life,
Mm.
just try it.
Yeah,
Just
there's
try it.
a really important belief for me when I teach people, particularly if I'm teaching a group, say like in a corporate setting where I'm going
Yeah.
to get 45 minutes with them and I'm probably never going to see them again
Yeah.
in their life because it's just a one-off session with that particular group, is that there's a fundamental belief that I have that the body knows how to breathe, and all we need to do, and if I'm going to work with someone, I'm just going to help them understand what it is that they're trying to do, and then just guide them through just taking away some of those restrictions that are causing some bad habits, etc., or whatever, and then show them within that literally first one session of like, this is where you're breathing before, this is how you're breathing afterwards, and like, how do you feel how that's changed and difference, and actually giving them some tangible
Yeah.
notions and feelings like, yeah,
Yeah.
and as you say, I go, was that hard? It's like,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't hard, because all we did was we took away some of those constraints or some of those restrictions that just allow your body to show you how beautiful it can breathe, which is efficient. And efficient means not big,
Yeah.
not loud or fast. Efficiency would be needing to do less of something. So it's actually
Yeah.
efficient breathing would be quieter breathing, slower breathing, smaller breathing. And it's like, okay, that makes sense because it's calmer. And when it's if you're physically, the thing you've got to do to stay alive is calmer, how do you think that your nervous system is? How do you think your mind is? Like everything's calmer. And it
Right.
sets you up to be able to like go into the sometimes big bad world and actually start a state in a state of less stress, start calmer, being able to then there.
Oh, shoot. Well, so Jacko had told me earlier that he had very little battery left, and we might be seeing the remnants of that. Dang. Well, sorry, guys. Oh, guess we'll have to close this final. Well, Jacko, I'll tell you later. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to end this recording, and you'll just have to come back later. Oh, wait, we're back.
Sorry, that
Okay,
was
wait.
my
I was
that
gonna say, how are you on battery?
right. So that was my computer from 30 35% just went.
Yeah. Well,
But this is my phone, which I then realized actually I can just use my phone. So as long as the audio and everything is still okay and whatnot,
uh-huh. Yeah.
then
Yeah. Well, I know we talked about a lot, and I want to be respectful of your time. Um, I wanted to make sure I plugged everything that you're working on. So Ring of Fire starts September 2nd. Is there a way like to follow your journey, or I'm guessing you'll be posting about that?
yeah. So on Instagram,
Yeah.
there's like
Jacko.david.jackson.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to follow what's going on during that. I do a live every Friday morning,
Okay.
7:30 UK time. And then depending on what is generated out of it, the short film documentary titled Between Breaths,
Hmm.
that you can see the trailer of on the Instagram, will
Right.
be released sort of end of September, early October, depending on what happens with it and etc. It's difficult. I feel a reasonable amount of pressure, being like, yeah, I need to make sure that I get to the end.
You will. You will. And then also, I'm going to brag on you a little bit. Jacko has a really great app called Breathwork, and it's definitely worth checking out. There's some really great foundations of breathing that you can access for free, as well as different levels if you're wanting more for that. Also, wait, Rooted Life, that's your company too, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Rooted Life is our sort of like little project around like more holistic health practices. So
Yeah.
breath work being, or breathing being part of that. But also my wife is a functional health coach, and then we've got some yoga instructors and Owen that does like the ice and cold exposure that we sort of team together to put on what
Yeah.
we call like connection experiences. So little events, day events in the UK where you can experience a better connection to yourself, nature, and others. That's our sort of like three pillars of connection.
No,
There's some free ebooks that you can download from the website and stuff as well on that.
yeah, I've downloaded them. They're good. I
Oh,
have,
there you go.
I have them. I have them. No,
I'm impressed. You like the foundation. The foundations course on the app is free, and like
yeah,
for
no,
me,
I
it's
checked it
important
out.
that
Yeah.
something as fundamental to life as breathing, those of us that have some, have some learned some stuff about it. My teaching through Patrick MeKeown at the OxygenAdvantage, it's phenomenal, and to be able to share the basics of all that is just going to be so helpful for everyone else. Like I feel that those things, it feels like it's a basic thing of life. Like no one teaches us how to breathe well and how to manage well. So for me, it needs to be free, and that's why that foundations course, so that 9 different modules, is free. It's on Android and it's on Apple, but it's free. Download it, use it, enjoy it. I hope it helps.
All right. Okay, you ready for my final question?
Oh yeah. Is it going to be a hard? People often ask like a hard question at the end and want some sort
No,
of like
no,
really
no. I just
philosophical answer.
no, no. It's just striking me that like every time I watch one of your videos, or and this is now the second time that we've chatted, there's just a joy and lightness about you. And I was just curious, do you feel like this quality was always a part of like your personality, or do you think this is something that's evolved and started to show up more and more as you've gotten deeper into knowing your breath and your body and your health? And I mean, I don't know you from
It's
the
an
past,
interesting
but no,
question.
I just see you laughing a lot and smiling a lot, and
um,
it's great. I love it.
it's a strange question to to even just like think of it. Someone yesterday called me cool, or was it this morning? Called me cool. They were like, "No, Jackie, you're cool." I was like, "I'm like a weird 40-year-old bloke with stupid hair and whatever." Like, I I guess I'm not like I'm miserable as sin when as soon as this camera goes off. No, I'm a Gemini, so
Uh-huh.
there's like the Gemini's like the twins, like the two things. So like a good example, this is something that sort of like holds me back, and it's something I'm trying to work on. In that, when I don't know people, I'm really shy. So we've just been with all the master instructors, some of which I've met online, but never met any of these people in person before. And
Yeah.
Oliver, a really cool guy from Austria, into capoeira, right? And so he's also quite shy. We didn't talk to each other until like the third day,
Yeah.
and then by the third day, then we've took our shirts off. We're doing capoeira around the room,
I
and
don't
like
even, what is capoeiro? I don't even
capoeira
know.
is like I mean, I don't even really know. Apparently, he said I was good for my first time. It's like I don't know if it's technically a martial art, but it's sort of like a martial art. I think it's a martial art. I'm going to be
Okay.
someone that does capoeira now is going to be absolutely hating on me that I don't know. But basically,
I'll
yeah,
look it
it's
up.
like it's a martial. It's like a self-defense thing, but then they do fight in that as well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's very beautiful, controlled movement. Like it's pretty cool. These sort of things like animal flow that you might have come across, like Mike Fitch's animal flow stuff. There's elements.
Writing all
Mike
this
Fitch, he's
down.
a really cool guy. There's elements of that are probably a little bit capoeirish, like Ido Portal. You have heard of him? Oh, you need to.
Wait, who's that?
That's like
Is
the movement. Ido Portal. If I'm pronouncing it, apologies if I'm not pronouncing it. That's like movement culture, like the movement scene of, like, how there's a significant amount of that comes out of capoeira. But anyway, but the point I was trying to make was that, like, I would have loved to spend all 3 days like chatting with him and doing stuff and whatnot, but because when I don't know people or know someone, I can be quite shy, and I think that sometimes some people can think that can be a bit like rude, because I'm not like, because when I know you, I'm going to come up and be like, yeah. But if I don't know you, it's like I'm just like shy, and that's just the other side to my personality, which then holds me back sometimes for then making those deeper connections with people earlier. It takes me time to get to that point, I think, which something I'm working on. I've always been a bit of a I've always that and like the two sides that so having those two sides all the time, it's like I've always been a bit of a joker, but then there's a dead serious side to me as well. So like one, and it can just flick quite quickly between the two. So like I have like a teacher mode. So like I can suddenly, if I'm like teaching or coaching, right, sort of go into this like teacher dead serious mode, but then 5 seconds later we're making a joke about something. But yeah, I've always had a terrible crap personality. No, probably a terrible what's the word? Why can't I think of the word? What do you think is funny?
What I think's funny?
Now, when someone thinks what
Sense of humor.
Sense of humor. I've always had a terrible sense of humor in terms of like I like really crap jokes, like dad jokes.
I'm gonna call you out on all your fallacies, because I've only met you twice and you've been nothing but wonderful and joyful. And
thank you.
If I'm being completely honest, literally when I was researching, making sure I had some good questions, I was like, shit, man, he's done a lot. What am I gonna have to ask him? And I think it's one of those things that's our ego always talking and saying, like, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't reach for that. But that's where I find the breath the most important, is that you calm it down, you get it real deep, you make it really slow, and you exaggerate the hell out of those exhales. And then you can start to come to what really is. You're not shy. You don't have a bad sense of humor. You're a really great person that has great information that is sharing it with the world. That's what's true. And yes, I'm on a different journey, and you've done more than I have in this realm, but I still have something to offer. And that's what I think the breath.
For sure.
Well, that's what the breath does.
Everyone.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. We all have something to give, and we all can change. And when I mean change, I mean talking about changing your health habits, your patterns, your thought patterns, your movement patterns, all of it.
And we all and just like we all have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, for sure.
The way you just like, I just came from imposter syndrome. I was like, with all these amazing people going, oh crikey, what can little old me tell anyone about breathing? I might as well just give up, because everyone else has got this on lockdown. Like, but the important thing is
wrong.
No, but the important thing is that, like, people connect with different people. There's billions of people in the world. Like, someone is going to want to learn from you, someone because you resonate with them. Someone else is going to want to learn from someone else because they resonate with them. And everyone, the important thing that brings out is that, like, I just need to be my best self. And then those that resonate with how I want to deliver things, or how I deliver things when I'm being myself, when I be myself, I can be my best self. And I come back to something that I'd come across. I can't remember where I came across it, but it's a really nice quote about, like, intent. Like, it's not about your output or your outcome. It's about your intent. So, like, what's my intent? My intent is to help people and share what I've learned that's impacted me personally. And my intent is only for good in that. And if I make some mistakes on the way, or if people don't like that the way we do it, it's like that can be quite what's the right word? One of my personality traits, I like to please people. I don't like to upset people, and that's like a real challenge. And if someone doesn't like or says a nasty comment on YouTube or on Instagram, whatever, and it's like, oh, that could come really. I'm not very thick-skinned, let's say, but then being able to have that anchor, going like, what's my intent? My intent with this is to try and share some good information to help people. It's purely that. And I think that's helpful. I think that's something I wish someone had told me that 20 years ago. But I also think that someone 7 years ago told me about breathing, and I went,
yeah,
sometimes you're just not in the space for it, right?
Right. Well, what I would say is, as a recovering people pleaser, and it sounds like you are too.
I'm a terrible people pleaser.
No, we're in recovery. We're getting better. I would just say that keep showing up. I love everything that you're doing. Thank you thank you for sharing, a little bit more about you and what you're doing. And I look forward to hopefully having more conversations in the future.
No, definitely. I needed to hear that today, because I've had just some doubts about stuff, and then just I'm doing this for bin, and I'm like, just the reality of like I'm doing something, because I've also it's like I want to use it as a way to the challenge to try and spread a message about the importance of breathing. It means then therefore you tell everyone about it, and then it's like, oh, crikey, so if I fall on my face now, I'm going to look like a right twat. So it brings I'm feeling some pressure at the moment, but no, I really, really, really do appreciate your words.
The pressure just means you're on the verge of something great, and that's when you get a diamond. You need the pressure to get that stone. And honestly, we're all human. Like, anyone that says that they can do everything perfect, those aren't my people, which is probably why I like following you. I like following you.
Maybe you can be my mentor.
Oh, done. All right. Mentor to Jacko complete. All right. Well, I'll be rooting for you. Congratulations on this exciting adventure ahead of you. And you got this. Got this. All right. High five. All right. Thanks, Jacko.
Thanks very much.